We appreciate everybody's attendance tonight. You just have to know that we have a very long agenda, and we appreciate everybody's cooperation with that. And we have several items to report out of closed session.
Say the pledge.
We have to say the pledge.
We get to.
Thank you.
Please rise. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Allison. So as I was saying, we have two items to report out of closed session. The suspended expulsion contracts for EH21/22-53, EH21/22-55, and EH21/22-57 were approved as recommended by the district staff. We have a correction in the agenda that we're going to pull item 3.1 of 10.3. The IEEP program presentation will not happen tonight. And then we have the correction on 14.2, the director, we've changed the Lori Guy position to director of data. And then 14.6, we're pulling the Elizabeth Alvarez from classified. Sorry, this is a work in progress. So now we have comments from the board. Jeff Boone. Frank.
I was pleasantly surprised this week when I was making my morning jog in the morning on a levee. I heard the announcements from Marysville High School. First period, the bell rang, brought back old memories. Then I heard they still do the bulletin. Sorry, teachers, I didn't know you still did that. Anyhow, that's all. Thank you.
Doug Criddle.
I just want to say this is an awesome sea of red. And I'm happy that you guys are representing tonight. Thank you.
Allison Hasty.
Yes, thank you for attending this evening. I'd also like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Apperson, Courtney Payne, and the Harris family for their generous donations.
Randy Rasmussen.
So earlier today we had the dedication for the Ag building for Marjorie Mcgill, and I just want to thank all the staff that made that just a fantastic presentation today, so thank you very much.
So next we have representatives from the high schools. Is Marysville High School here?
Good evening, everyone. So CASP and CAS testing have finished like last week, and we are now in the makeup sessions. Today was the SAT day for our juniors, and we have AP testing coming up in May. This week, students were supposed to attend Shady Creek as counselors with Foothill Intermediate, but unfortunately the trip was canceled due to COVID. Our ASB leadership elections are next week. We are very excited to see our ASB leadership team grow. We have our prom on May 14th. The theme is Under the Stars, and like I always say, all of you guys are always welcome to come and join us. FFA students will be competing at Cal Poly in 2 weeks. Both the Vet Science and the BIG teams will be attending. This competition is extremely tedious and detailed. Our students have been working very hard and preparing for months for this moment, and I have no doubt that they will come back very successful. Now, I would like to honor someone who had a very big impact on Marysville High School. Marjorie Mcgill graduated from MHS in 2010. She competed and won many FFA competitions. She is the reason why Marysville FFA is the way it is today. In 2019, she died a very tragic death. Marysville FFA has dedicated the barn in honor of her remembrance, which will now be called MAC, Marjorie Mcgill Ag Complex. Her favorite color was purple. To honor her, a purple bench was placed at some of her favorite places, including her favorite park in Washington, D.C., the UC Davis campus, and one was placed near the MHS barn. We will make sure that her spirit is always and will always be remembered. Thank you.
Thank you. Lyndhurst High School. Would you state your name at the podium?
Good afternoon. I'm Jasmine Acosta, and I'm here with Lyndhurst High School. Here's what's been going on at Lyndhurst. Our week before we went on to spring break, we had our Blazer Extravaganza, which consisted of our Powerpuff Game, our Food Day, and our Sadie Hawkins dance. This was all on April 8th, and that entire week we had dress-up days. Our Powerpuff Game ended with a tie, and our Food Day consisted of 12 clubs selling. We had good sales, and we earned $2,800. One of our clubs, Arsenal 5, actually raised $500 as they sold pupusas and pot stickers. Our Sadie Hawkins dance was ran by our sophomore class, and they made $1,300 off tickets. The dance was a success. Our OH club is selling Mother's Day arrangements for $25 at our web store. Our junior ROTC club is going on a camping trip this Friday, April 29th, and coming back the next day on April 30th, and they will be hiking. Our PE is also starting our adventure races. WASC will also be coming to Lyndhurst next week. They will be on our campus from Monday through Wednesday, and they will be interviewing our leadership class on Monday. We have Teacher Appreciation Week coming up, and we'll be having a lunchtime activity on Tuesday, May 3rd, which different departments will compete. Our next food day is also May 18th, and we will have a teachers versus spring sports kickball game, and it's a minimum day, so this would be after school. Our Interact Club will also be having a charity event being held on May 21st, 2022 in the Lyndhurst High School gym from 5 to 7 p.m. in honor and celebration of Mr. Grace, a teacher at Lyndhurst who has recently passed. This will be a spaghetti dinner with the entrance at $10 or entrance plus a spaghetti dinner plate at $25, with tickets available for pre-order through the LHS website, at the door, and the day of. During the event, there will be entertainment, which will be a performance by our band, a cultural Hmong dance performed by K Entertainment Club, and more. At the event, there will also be a silent auction for gift baskets, which the LHS departments have graciously put together and donated. Our band went to the World Strides Heritage Festival in Santa Clara, and we received the bronze rating, which is national ranking, and came in second place. The World Strides takes directors' nominations for students who have overcome any number of challenges. Our student Caleb Manley was awarded this honor. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a representative from MCAA?
Good evening. The month of April has been quite eventful. At the beginning of the month, on April 1st, MCAA held its first ever Spring Carnival. This event had a great turnout. Everyone of all ages had a blast. We estimate that the event made a profit of about $1,800. The following week, the 10th grade class held our annual Sadie Hawkins dance. This year's theme was A Night in the Renaissance. Many students dressed up in costumes, which made the whole event even more fun and festive. Last week, our Multicultural Club celebrated a variety of cultures through a multicultural fair. They set up booths that contain information about different cultures, as well as some educational activities. Our Excel Club has dedicated the rest of this week to child abuse protection. Excel Club will also be planning a blood drive for Friday, May 27th. Later this week, MCAA will release our 2022 spring musical. This year, we will be performing Disney's Freaky Friday. The show will be performed at the Marysville High School South Auditorium on Thursday through Saturday. All of the specific times of the performances are on the posters that you've been handed out in front of you. All the theater students have been working so incredibly hard, and they have been able to produce something truly fun and entertaining, so I encourage all of you to come out and see it. At the beginning of next month, the senior class will celebrate this year's prom. It will be held on May 7th at the Yuba City Tea Garden Event Center. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we have opportunity for employee organizations to address the board. Marysville Unified Teachers Association.
Are we here? Good evening, Mr. Davis and the rest of the board, Dr. Azrani. Brought a few friends, just a few. So Angela Stiegel, I'm president for the Marysville Unified Teachers Association, and Tammy Stralzini is our treasurer. She's also our bargaining chair. So we have come here this evening to share some information with the board, and I've heard it said, and I will say that it's rumor, but rumor has it that it's pretty easy for the board to kind of, ignore what I have to say when I get up here, because I'm one person. I'm only one person. How could I possibly know what all 500 of my teachers want? So there's your indication. This is 18 hours. 18 hours of putting the word out to teachers here at Marysville Joint Unified to get this showing here this evening. So we want to show you some numbers that we have for you. We've done a little data mining of our own. Thank you, sir. So we have about 9 slides that we want to share with you this evening. So we will do our best to keep it short and sweet, to the point, because like you said, we already know there is a long agenda. So giving people some budget numbers, some fiscal numbers, we first want to let you know that all of the information that you are going to see is based on the fiscal information from Marysville Joint Unified. This is not data that we have found online. These are not numbers that we're guessing. We're not pulling the numbers off of our, pay stubs or whatever. This is actual information that the Business Services Office here provides to the Teachers Union so that we can compare like information. And so the first slide that we have for you is entitled Total Revenues. And if you look across the bottom of that, starting off at 2016-17, you'll notice that there's been a steady increase across until we hit about COVID. And then, as we all know, we had, a bunch of COVID funds come in, CARES Act money, ESSER money, and so we had a bit of a leap. And then for this year, the budget came back down, and so it was projected that we were going to budget about $129 million. By the first interim, that had climbed up to 192, and by the second interim, 197 million. So about 68 million difference. So continuing that trend, we then have total available funds. And so with total available funds, you will again see that those numbers have been steadily climbing. And then we hit kind of a plateau when we hit the budget, which those are projections. But then when you look again at the first interim and the second interim, there's that about 68 million that comes up again.
This slide is talking about the adjusted beginning balances going all the way back down to 2016-17. The three on the right side, the third one in is the budget, and then the first interim is the red, and the second interim is green. We began this year with $19 million more than last year, and $28 million more than in pre-COVID times. When we're looking at the ending balance, you expect this year to end with $17 million more than last year's ending balance. Historically, between going back even further to 2014 all the way through 2021, long before the one-time CARES Act monies came about, the ending balance has grown every year for a total amount being about $47 million, and you expect to add another $17 million to that final number, leaving you with a total ending balance of almost $80 million. And all we're asking for is 2.5. This next slide is the percent of total outgo of your ending balance as compared to neighboring districts around us. Keeping in mind that the ending balance, where only 3% is actually required, when we compare that to surrounding districts, this number in the red, that's our district, it is significantly startling. The average ending balance percent of total outgo for the surrounding districts is about 18%. That's 32% less than where we are at. Let's take it down to one particular category, and this category is books and supplies. The cost of our 5% is approximately $2.5 million. And looking historically at this category in particular, I'm having trouble understanding how and why so much money has been moved to books and supplies. About $11 million more than was budgeted, the purple line, 3 lines in. $13 million more than the average book and supply budget pre-COVID. And from this, the district cannot find $2.5 million for your teachers. The last slide I'm going to share is that same category across several comparing districts. This is books and supply percent of total outgo. If we take a look at all these other districts' books and supplies, on average, it's 4% of their budgets that go to books and supplies. Ours is over double that. Why?
Continuing on, we go from one end of the spectrum to the other. When you're looking at books and supplies, we are clear over to your left. When you get into the certificated bargaining unit salaries and the percent of total outgo, though, we all of a sudden, in comparison to other districts like us and around us, we plummet back down to the bottom. In other school districts, the certificated bargaining unit salaries are about 33 to 40% of total outgo. Marysville Joint Unified, we're 33. And so then when you look at just Marysville Joint Unified and you look at some historical information, you can see that in 2016-17, we were about 35% of total outgo. What's really interesting is if we actually added a couple more years to that and went back to 2014, we were actually 42%. And so just in a couple of years, we went from 42 to 35. And as you continue along, you can see that, in fact, we have continued to decrease, and we continue to decrease. And at the budget, we were going to be just over 33%. And now, at second interim, we're at 27% of total outgo. And so one thing that we would like to really leave the board with tonight is a quote that a lot of us have heard in the last year and a half or so, and it's actually from an educational researcher we all know well. And I think I've even said this to the board before. You do not improve education by demoralizing the people who have to do the work every day. When we have to beg the district year after year after year for COLA, let alone an actual raise, when we have to beg for COLA, it is demoralizing. There's no other way to put it. And so we have teachers here. These are the people doing your hard work every day, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. So what we're asking is stop demoralizing your teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Operating Engineers, Local Union Number 3. California School Employees Associations Number 326 and 648. Association of Management and Confidential Employees. Supervisory Unit. Now we have some presentations. We have the 10.1 Career Technical Education, CTE program.
Cabinet, members of the audience, I'm Jamie Larson, Director of College and Careers, and it's my pleasure to share with you a presentation on the district's impressive career technical education programs. And after the presentation, I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Career Technical Education, or CTE, provides students with academic and technical skills to complement the knowledge and training necessary to succeed in future careers and to become lifelong learners. CTE programs teach career skills that help students become ready for college or work. It bridges the gap between high school and post-secondary plans. CTE makes academic content relevant by providing it in a hands-on context. Today's CTE has expanded far beyond what was traditionally known as vocational education. Foundational to CTE are rigorous program standards that ensure high-quality CTE through a program of study involving a multi-year sequence of courses. The state of California has identified 15 industry sectors, each with multiple career pathways. The Marysville Joint Unified School District offers 20 sequenced pathways in 8 industry sectors. Pathways consist of at least 300 hours of instruction. Sequences are typically taught over a 2-year period. Many CTE courses count for college credit and are A to G approved to meet minimum admission requirements for the University of California system. Now let's take a look at the pathways the district offers, and I will interject notes shared by some of our CTE teachers as they celebrate the return to the classroom. The district offers 6 pathways in the Ag and Natural Resources industry sector. Students in Donald Boltz's MHS Ag Mechanics classes are back in the shop working toward earning welding certifications. Kayla Coughlin is proud of the state-winning agri-science program offered at MHS. This year, her students enjoyed an animal science tour featuring a beef and sheep operation, dairy, and meatpacking plant. The greenhouse is alive again at MHS due to Chase Bisbee's leadership in the plant science classes. Students are also raising, maintaining, harvesting, and selling market turkeys. Arts, media, and entertainment is another robust industry sector for the district. Troy Spangler and the multimedia production students at LHS added a second regular production to their lineup this year. In addition to the Blazer Insider, a daily news broadcast capturing school announcements and activities, students are also working with Dr. Asrani on Let's Talk, a talk show that features guests sharing exciting news and updates about the district. This is the first full year of in-person learning for the construction program at LHS. The instructor, Jim Wall, brought together an impressive industry advisory committee that is dedicated to helping the program build a plan to construct tiny homes in the future. Despite the challenging year, the Business Club Art Show prevailed under Moveen Khan's direction. 28 students showcased 170 pieces of art over a 3-day period at MHS. The advanced students are now preparing for their visit to UC Berkeley. The Early Childhood Pathway places students in district and community preschools to work beside teachers and inspire young learners. Jackie Midtoon says many of her students are interested in working with children as a career after being placed at job sites. Rachel Hutchinson, sports medicine teacher at Lyndhurst, says students are excited to learn and work this year. Seniors realized what they missed out on during COVID. New this year, sports medicine students are required to complete hours in the athletic training room to experience rehab and the evaluation component of athletic training, in addition to observing athletic trainers caring for injuries during games. And what else can I say but yum? Chef Tim Levitt and his student skills will be on display at the retirement celebration here at the district office on May 10th. The automotive pathway is provided through a partnership with Tri-County ROP. Students are able to safely rack a vehicle and perform general maintenance services, such as oil changes, brake checks, brake replacement, tire rotations and repairs, and steering and suspension inspections. This year, students revived a project truck that had been sitting in a vineyard in Lodi for 20-plus years. It's now roadworthy again. In addition to general funds and the LCAP investment that supports CTE, we actively seek additional grant funding to enhance our programs. As you can imagine, it takes a substantial investment to replicate industry equipment and functionality in our classrooms and provide CTE leadership and work-based learning activities. According to the research for the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, 93% of high school students in CTE programs graduate on time, significantly higher than the national rate of 84.6%. What's more, the association's research indicates 81% of high school dropouts reported that relevant real-world learning opportunities would have kept them in school. CTE engages with business and industry to provide opportunities for job shadowing, mentoring, externships, internships, and more. More than 1,400 students are enrolled in CTE courses at Lyndhurst, Marysville, and the Charter Academy. 1,065 are in first-year courses, and 357 are currently taking the advanced or completer courses. 36% of last year's graduates completed a career pathway. In an effort to increase completer numbers, we are piloting two-period block courses next year at Lyndhurst to give seniors who have room in their schedule the opportunity to complete a pathway. The district celebrates a host of local businesses and industries, as well as educational partners that support our CTE programs. We are greatly appreciative to our district advisory committee's investments. On March 9th, we loaded a school bus with CTE teachers, Yuba County economic development experts, and business leaders. We toured 6 businesses. The tour was designed to organically connect teachers to industry and real-world outcomes for our students. On April 19th, 7 trade unions came to Marysville and Lyndhurst High School campuses to connect with interested students. And next year, the district will have a department focused on college and careers to improve outcomes on the California dashboard. Some of our big goals include hosting a college and career fair district-wide and expanding work-based learning and industry certifications. We have already begun working with industry partners and the Yuba-Sutter Chamber of Commerce, One Stop, and the Workforce Investment Board to further integrate industry into the classroom. Tonight, board members are getting a preview of the draft program brochures we are producing, and we will be further developing our website. This year, we also created a CTE video highlight of our programs. We are inches away from expanding our dental collaboration with Peachtree Clinic to serve high school students through the dental lab at Marysville High. In addition to allowing students to work beside a dentist, hygienist, and office personnel, high school students will be able to have dental work done on campus. This extension of the district's Happy Toothmobile project will be a win-win. Pending your approval tonight, we have the potential to add 2 additional CTE pathways to our course offerings. A new Yuba College dual enrollment public safety pathway will infuse fire science and administrative justice classes. Through a partnership with ROP, we are proposing a nursing assistant pathway that will prepare students for the CNA exam. Last week, 3 teachers from Lyndhurst got a sneak peek at the State Skills USA competition. Next year, we will add a new career technical student organization to enhance student leadership. Skills USA is similar to FFA, but focuses on industry sectors other than ag. Great things are happening for students in our career technical education pathways. CTE teachers and students wholeheartedly appreciate the board's and cabinet's continued support. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jamie. Does the board have any questions or comments for Jamie?
Jamie, I would just like to say thank you very much for all that you do. For a district our size to have 20 career pathways is just phenomenal. And again, looking at some of the brochures that you have helped develop for our pathways, top notch. Thank you very much.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Courtney Tompkins has worked hard on those with me as
Thank you,
well.
Courtney.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other comments from the board?
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we have a presentation from Covalot Elementary. Hi, Carrie.
presentation because I know you have a lot going on tonight, but just a few highlights from our year. We were, and you already are aware of this, but we are proud of the fact that even through COVID, we could celebrate our U.S. News report that we were listed as one of the best elementary schools, and you can see our ranking up there. So we're very happy about that. It was nice to have good news. And then just very briefly, you have of course already seen our site plan, but just a continued focus, of course, on engaging our learners with a focus, of course, this year particularly on SEL learning and, of course, literacy. And you can see some of the pieces that we funded. And, of course, always looking to improve that school-to-home relationship. We're currently working on building in some parental involvement pieces back to Covalad. We just had family game night Friday, which was well attended. I heard that you showed up. I'm sorry I missed you. So that was fun to have parents back on campus as we work towards all of those pieces that Covalad does so well. And then, of course, our third goal, referencing just technology to support those efforts. Let's see here. And then this is just a summary for you of this is our very current data. And you can see our math and ELA scores. That first number on the left indicates a within grade range. So what that means, if you look at first grade math, 51% of our first graders currently are within grade range, and that second number to the right would be 42% of those students being above grade range. And that's, of course, indicated through Renaissance. And just a note at the bottom in regards to our continued focus on cougar time or intervention time. Our teachers were great this year, even though I know they're exhausted about tutoring, almost all of them twice a week for that additional support. And then we spent some spent money on additional paraprofessionals in our first and second grade classrooms for those kiddos that we knew needed some really extra special attention in regards to literacy and math skills. And then, of course, our Friday flagpole celebrations continue. Please show up at any time on any Friday at 8:15 to join us for that ongoing academic celebration that we enjoy every Friday. State testing is coming up, so that's the big push right now. And just some notes about that. Teachers are, of course, prepping our learners right now for that big piece using interim assessments, and then I'm meeting with students individually to set their goals. And then, of course, I have not experienced the street dance, but I've heard a lot about it because COVID's gone on for so long. So we'll end our testing time with our street dance. Our our construction project, as you know as well, is well underway. PBK has been, I think, very, very collaborative with us. Teachers got to choose their classroom design. The architectural style for the building was selected, that was the best picture I could get. That's actually the building that was selected to go up, our 16 classroom building. And we are expected to complete that in the fall, so we're excited about that. These are just some examples of what we've done to bring our community inside of our school and are continuing to do for the next 5 weeks. And that's all I have. I'm very proud to work at Covalad, and I'm proud of the work that we do. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Carrie?
Just thank you. Both my kids, Frankie and Sarah, went to Covalad, and they're doing great. Thank you.
And I would just offer that you and your staff are models for the rest of the district. And I know you carry a heavy load with those unbelievable awards that Covalad has gathered over the years. So we really appreciate, and we're so happy that we can move forward with your new building. So thank you very much. Next, we have Lyndhurst High School.
Dr. Azrani, Cabinet, and everyone in the audience. It is great to see everybody in here and getting engaged. We have our presentation here tonight. It's also part of our WASC presentation. So we created a very short, just overall SIPSA kind of dip the waters into it. WASC itself could probably take several hours. But we'd like to show you this presentation, and at the end, please, if you have questions, let's go. Just hit the button? Yeah, go ahead. Okay, me and technology. Good evening, Board of Trustee members, Dr. Fall, Cabinet, and audience members. My name is Bob Eckert, Principal of Lyndhurst High School, and it's my pleasure tonight to not only do our school presentation introducing the school plan for student achievement, but also to discuss the WASC process as we have been preparing for our upcoming WASC, which will begin this Sunday and go through next Wednesday. At Lyndhurst High School, our mission is guiding and preparing all our students for success.
Good evening. My name is Scott Jackson, Assistant Principal at Lyndhurst High School. I'm going to review the process. So the process of our self-reflection, examining all aspects of our school for WASC. This is required for accreditation, ensures best practices are in place for being developed, highlights areas of strengths, identify areas of growth, ensure our goals are aligned with LCAP and SIPSA.
Good evening. I'm Chris Schmidt. I'm the assistant principal at Lyndhurst High School. I'm going to read off the areas of strength, our continued growth in the PLC process, our guiding coalition, our robust CTE programs, pathways, collaboration among teachers and staff, our embedded intervention time, the opportunities for professional development, common assessments within core classes, our student-to-teacher connections, and our cultural diversity and awareness. The areas of growth that we've identified through this process are to continue to boost the depth of knowledge and student understanding while increasing the rigor within all classrooms, to provide better equity and access to classes and coursework, specifically for our special populations due to a 6-period day, enhanced and expanded communications with the community and parents with what is happening at LHS, and continue to refine the way that we utilize data to drive instruction and intervention.
So within the WASC, we also create an action plan for the school in order to hit our goals for growth. We have identified this year these 4 areas in which we are working on, and what you'll see are expenditures that we've committed to during this year to help to achieve our goals. In the area of intervention, we were able to develop embedded intervention time. We also support and provide bilingual paraeducators as well as supplemental instruction materials for teachers. For 21st century skills, dealing with instruction, collaboration is big for us. We have summer institutes in which we pay for teachers who are willing to work in the summertime for a few hours to develop common assessments, work on standards. We also work on our communication not only within the department, but also cross-curricular to make sure that everybody is up to date and aware of what's going on. For instruction, we do a lot of work with lesson design through the PLC process. We try and provide as much development as we can with common strategies and professional development. Our robust CTE pathways, we do also fund an IT specialist here on campus to work with our teachers and students, ensuring and facilitating the 21st century needs there, and then creating the innovative classroom technology of which Lyndhurst High School does have quite an array. For social emotional supports, we do have a community resource for intensive intervention. We are part of the PBIS process. We have tiered support, which includes teachers, ORCs, student support, counselors, psychologists, as well as a PASS officer. Within our SIPSA, for our 21-22 site budget for our students, our school site council, Our budget is very robust. It's a little over $1 million, and the way that breaks down is for Title I initial allocation, a little over $400,000. We had a very large carryover this year, $239,000, plus parent involvement of around $5,400. So the total allocation for Title I was $6,903.04. And in targeted, we had, as you can see, $291,000 in change, plus $82,000 in carryover, which gives us a grand total of about $373,000 and change.
So our SIPSA goal number 1 is to improve the academic performance of all Lyndhurst High School students in all areas of study. A key component of this goal is to maintain and continue to implement and improve upon the embedded intervention time at Lyndhurst High School. Our SIPSA goal is in line with the LCAP goal, which is to improve academic performance by creating an academic system that addresses and engages the various identified needs of all MJUSD students. We plan to, or to measure this goal, is to hopefully have an increase of 10% on the CASP English and math scores, an AP score increased pass rate to 30% average, rising stars increased by 5%, reduce the number of credit deficient students per grade by 5%, and to increase the graduation rate to 92%. SIPSA goal number 2 is to build and maintain a system of support for both academic and SEL, supporting all students, but specifically targeting our emerging bilingual population, as well as our foster and low SCS students. This is in line with, again, the LCAP goal of building a system of specific supports for our ELL, English learners, foster, and low SES. We're hoping to reduce or to have a reduction of those students classified as emerging bilinguals by 25%, have a reduction of Fs by emerging bilinguals, foster, and SES students in their classes by 20%, and to increase the graduation rate for emerging bilinguals, foster, and SES students by 2%.
In keeping with the charge of college and career ready, our SIPSA goal number 3, Lyndhurst High School will maintain and grow its college and career pathways. And where we are going to measure this at is our college and career metric, the CCI. What we're hoping for at the end of the year is 40% of our seniors will meet the measure of prepared. In addition, our pathway completers to increase by 20%.
SIPSA goal 4. Lyndhurst will increase positive parent participation and trust within our school and community. Parental attendance at school-sponsored events will increase by 15%. Establishment and continued involvement of schools booster club is also part of the LCAP goal, improve the meaningful school-to-home relationship with students.
So with that, this concludes the Lyndhurst High School presentation for our WASC and SIPSA. If you wish, we do have a 118-page WASC document that we can go over line by line. But short of being that, if you have any questions, we would be more than happy to answer any and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Does the board have any questions or comments for Bob?
I was lucky enough to open up Lyndhurst High School in 1974. No one probably believe, well, Kathy Wood would believe me. She was a freshman. Now she's retiring. Remember, Kathy? I didn't mean to embarrass you. I'd be looking around and see if everybody believed me. Bob, I think, knows. I opened my career at Marysville High. Lester Joe Bear was the principal. Boy, I'm really aging myself, aren't I? Anyhow, I remember our first accreditation in 1976. That scared the hell out of me, and I'm glad you guys did it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would just like to, for Bob and Chris and Scott, after reviewing your WASC, your visit coming up, I mean, you guys did a fantastic, along with your staff and your teachers that put all the time and effort into this. This is a fantastic document. And a lot of the gains that you're looking at in your goals, I certainly hope that by refining your intervention and enrichment period, I think that seemed like it's got to help with those goals that you set for that. So thank you again for your staff and your teachers for all the work they're doing on that intervention enrichment period, because I think it's going to really show a lot of benefit in your test scores for your document.
No, thank you, Randy. And actually, that brings up a good point. The WAS document, it isn't something that the three of us get in office and we write. I mean, for those of you that understand high school and understand the WAS process, this takes every single teacher, every single classified staff, admin to come together and continue this process from the last WASC. It's always about reflecting and revising. And I want to shout out to the person who was she was the cornerstone for this WASC endeavor, and that is Wendy Fritzinger. She's our math teacher, our department chair. She did a phenomenal job. She started off with Mimi. Where is Mimi? Mimi, you're here? Yep. So they were co-chairs, and they did tremendous heavy lifting, and then Mimi left the team, but her work stayed with us, and so a lot of this credit goes to Wendy, to Mimi, and really to all of the teachers to put all this stuff together. So wherever you guys are out there, Mimi, thank you very much. This is the best document I've seen us produce.
Thank you, Bob.
Do you want to invite us for the
kickoff? Sorry. Is the visit actually starts on Sunday. So for those of you who can make it, starting at 5 o'clock, dinner at 5:30. There's just kind of an informal meet and greet with the visiting team. Break bread a little bit. We give them a walk around tour, just kind of let them see the site on an easy thing. And then part of the process is they do want to speak with district leadership as well as board members and kind of get your take on Lyndhurst High School and how you feel we're doing. So please, if you can make it, we would definitely want you there. Just shoot me an email. I've heard back from some of you. Thank you very much. And we're ready, so it'll be a fun ride.
Thank you again, Bob.
Thank you.
Now we have the approval of minutes of the 3/22/22 minutes.
Motion to approve.
Let's finish this. Is there a second on the minutes to be approved? Okay, Randy Rasmussen has a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
What's this, G?
Passes 7-0. Now we will move to the departmental updates from the superintendent. We have business services.
I have no update tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Education services?
For educational services, no update tonight. For the personnel department, we are in prime hiring season. These agendas come out, or we turn in stuff for these about a week and a half before. I will say since the agenda, and as you look through, you'll see lots of hires. There's been about 22 additional new teachers hired as well. So we continue to grind. Thank you to the administrative teams who are out there helping to hold all of the interviews. We will continue to work. I think one of the things that we can do to help build morale is to start next year as fully staffed as humanly possible so that people aren't having to teach 6/5 at the high schools or do any kind of coverage. So we will continue towards working at that.
Thank you. Superintendent?
Thank you. I'd like to start off by giving a big shout out to the Ed Services Department. The work that Ed Services has been doing has been absolutely astounding. I have to say they've gone all year without an assistant soup, and the director and the directors, there's Amy there, there's Mimi there, there's Alicia, and every single person, thank you, and for the work that you continue to do. Thank you so much. Going back to some quick announcements, this is a Child Abuse Prevention Month. So we want to thank all our teachers, our case providers, our care providers, our community really, for looking out for the children that are under our care every day. This is also the recognition for the month of the military child. And so I'm going to read out something which says each April is set aside as a month of the military child. So with the start in the mid-'80s, the Pentagon and other military support organizations and agencies use a month to recognize military kids for their sacrifices and bravery on the home front. So children of military. So we just want to cheer them on and celebrate them. And I believe Edgewater did a wonderful celebration, and they were wearing purple and beautiful pictures for that. This is also Teacher Appreciation coming up on May 3rd, and we want to, of course, celebrate all of you. And I know you're laughing because you think we don't celebrate you, but we do love you, and we want you to know that. We have received updates from the state that the rural school will not happen. It is only for school districts that are 300 students or less, and I do want to give a shout out to Mcaa, and it needs to be said because I missed it last time and I was taken to task for that. Mcaa did do an agreement on the CBA that bought us 1 year, which is this year, and so we were able to postpone it, but next year we have to get ready to make sure that we work through it, and then in 23-24, high schools will start at 8:30 and middle schools will start at 8. And then, of course, the effect of that is felt by elementary schools that go earlier and earlier. So it's going to be a tough work next year, so we'll be ready for that. I did attend the art competition at Crocker Museum this weekend. Thank you, Shelley, for sending me the text, and wonderful to see you, James, over there. What beautiful artwork by our students. It was a competition, and we had a couple of MCA students. One got the 4th prize, one got an honorable mention. And the artwork is professional. I mean, I just spent hours there, and you were still there when I left. And it was the most beautiful Sunday afternoon in Sacramento. I do want to thank all our support staff and our administrators. And of course, I keep thanking our teachers always, but for all that you continue to do for our children and for our parents and our community. And this afternoon, and this evening rather, there'll be so many presentations from the various departments. And the reason we're doing that is, you know, we do such great work, but as educators, we're not very good about championing the good things we do. We always get in the press for negative things, or we don't talk good enough about the programs or the supports or the leadership or the examples of teaching in the classrooms that I see when I visit schools. So I just want to make sure we do more of that and keep the focus on truly what makes this district a great district to be at. And today, of course, we attended the dedication ceremony for the ag facilities for Marjorie Mcgill, and that was a wonderful, wonderful ceremony. So on that note, just want to say it's been a wonderful 8 months. Who would have believed it? It's almost, time just flies, so thank you.
Thank you, Val. Now we have the approval of consent agenda items. Are there any consent agenda items any member wants to pull? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as if.
Motion been made by Frank. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Now we move to new business. Item 16, new business. Vote for CSBA Delegate Assembly, Subregion 4-C. There are 4 candidates, if I count correctly, and to submit none. And I'd just like to know what the board would like to do. Do we want to renominate or vote for our candidate?
Yes.
Gary Criddle.
I want to vote for John Nicoletti.
Okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor of Gary Criddle, say aye. Aye. Raise your hand.
Say again.
Gary Criddle.
We're voting.
I thought we were going to each candidate.
Okay, we're taking a vote, and we're voting on who's going to be our CSBA delegate.
So did somebody make a motion to that?
Not officially.
We are just voting.
Okay.
So
tell me again who we're voting for. Who's up first?
Gary Criddle.
Gary Criddle is our nominee.
Okay, so I'll vote yes for Gary.
Okay, we have 5 yes. And then Frank?
No.
Okay.
I'm not making a friend here, am I?
Okay. So
That's
Gary,
still no.
Gary
I got enough
Criddle,
friends.
Gary Criddle is our nominee. Okay, we have new business. Adopt a resolution 2021-22/22, Blue Zones Project, Yuba-Sutter. Do we have any staff to discuss this?
Yes, sure. So Blue Zones is a partnership that the district is embarking on. It's in the community. They talk about healthy communities, healthy living lifestyle. They are working with our district and Yuba County to put in place practices for good eating habits, exercise. I think it's a wonderful resolution for the district to support.
Is there any questions for the superintendent? Do I hear a motion to adopt the resolution 2021-22/22, Blue Zones Project for Yuba-Sutter?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Allison Hasty. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Doug Criddle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. New business education services. Here we have some readings that complete the first read of Board Policy 4156.2, awards and recognition. Do we have staff?
Jennifer, would you like to cover it, please?
Okay, thank you. So this is our first read for Board Policy 4156.2, Awards and Recognition. This board policy will recognize the value of instructional and non-instructional staff and authorizes awards and incentives to promote a positive school climate at schools and across the district.
Are there any questions for Jennifer? Okay, this is a reading. Next item is a first read of A through G Completion Improvement Grant Plan for MCAA.
Good evening. Give me just one moment. Thank you. It's that one. Thanks, sir. All right, I'm here to speak to you tonight about the A through G Improvement Grant for the Charter Academy for the Arts. The A through G requirements listed here represent the minimum coursework for students to complete in order to be accepted to the University of California or a California State University campus. While these requirements are similar to high school graduation requirements, in some areas they do exceed the requirements that are approved by the governing board. The funding we are receiving is based on our high school age students' unduplicated pupil count for last school year. You may recall these students are a population on campus that are of higher risk. So these are traditionally students that are eligible for funding for programs like Title I or the LCAP Supplemental Concentration Grant. We're receiving funds from the Learning Loss Mitigation and Access Grant subcategories, which is awarded to schools with an A through G completion rate below 67%. This brings the total allocation for MCAA for this grant to be $150,000. We plan to utilize these funds for credit recovery coursework, which is currently being administered through the Edmentum program, professional development to make sure our advanced placement courses are modern and up to date, training for teachers and credit recovery support for students in the form of after-school tutoring, direct support for students attempting credit recovery, and programs like our annual summer school. To measure the success of our A through G improvement grant, we will continue to monitor A through G enrollment and completion, participation rate of students in these A through G courses, advanced placement courses, AP exam scores, and the number of students who were able to make up classes where they received a D or an F, which would then make those classes eligible to meet their A through G requirements. At the next board meeting, we will be requesting approval of this plan, which is in the board packet for you to read over between now and then. If you have questions about it at this time, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I thank you for your time and attention this evening.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the presenter? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have another first read, A through G Improvement Grant Plan for MJUSD.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Azrani, Cabinet, and members of the audience. The purpose for this presentation, I'm Alicia Wright, the Coordinator of Innovations, and we're going to present our A through G Completion Improvement Grant Plan. This is a requirement to present it and then review it again next month for approval.
What are A through G requirements? Students must complete 15 year-long high school courses with a letter grade of C- or better in order to meet the minimum requirements for admission to the University of California schools or California State Universities. The subject areas and their identified letters are listed below. The chart below shows the number of MJUSD students who completed A through G requirements in the 2020 to 2021 school year. This shows the combined graduation rate for students who met the University of California or CSU A through G criteria with a grade of C or better. There were 139 students, or 21.8%. The A through G Completion Improvement Grant Program was established for the purpose of providing additional supports to local educational agencies to help increase the number of California high school students, particularly unduplicated pupils, who graduate from high school with A through G eligibility. Within this grant, there are 3 areas that LEAs can qualify. The first is the Access Grant for LEAs who had less than 67% A through G completion rates. The Success Grant is for LEAs that had a rate of 67% or higher. MJUSD with the 21.8% completion rate qualified for the Access Grant funds. Additionally, we qualified for the A through G Learning Loss Mitigation Grant for students who received a grade of D or F or failed an approved A through G course. Let's take a closer look at A through G Access Grant funds. We receive an equal amount for every unduplicated student enrolled in grades 9 through 12. Funds are available through the 25-26 school year for the purpose of increasing the number of high school students who graduate with A through G eligibility. Some samples of eligible uses of funds are listed, and MJUSD was awarded $512,339. Looking at the required uses and the needs within our district, we've planned the following uses of the grant funds. College and career centers will be created at all middle and high schools. A through G and AP workshops will be provided to families and students to increase awareness of what the A through G courses are and to encourage and support them in taking AP classes. We will provide AP training for teachers, and we will offer AP and dual enrollment support. We also received funds for the Learning Loss Mitigation Grant. This again is meant to support students who received a grade of D or F or failed an A through G approved course during the spring 2020 semester or 2020-2021 school year. This grant provides the opportunity for students to retake A through G courses. MJUSD was awarded $192,074. In order to support students in credit recovery, We will be providing Edmentum support and monitoring between now and the 25-26 school year. This is not paying for the Edmentum program, which is already in our district. Instead, it is to provide some extra staffing to reach out to and support students that need extra help. When it's time to monitor our plan's success, we're going to be looking at the percentage of students meeting the A through G requirements at graduation. Obviously, we should see that rate coming up from that 21.8%. We should see an increase in students participating in and passing A through G courses because we're hoping that they will now understand the importance of them. We'll see an increase in the number of unduplicated students participating in AP courses and taking AP tests. We will see AP and dual enrollment offerings increasing and increased participation. And we should see the completion of A through G courses by students who received D's or F's from spring 2020 to spring 2021. Our next steps are to hold a discussion and answer any questions today, and then we will bring a second read and the plan for approval at a May board meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the presenter?
Actually, hi Alicia, it might just be a question for Mrs. Bisaya. Do all of these grants add to the total district revenue? The total district's revenue throughout the year or for the year? Or maybe Alicia, you might know that.
Well, are you referring to the presentation earlier, if these numbers affect?
Yeah.
No, I just wonder if these go in to add into our total revenue that we get for the district.
They do. They show up in our restricted.
And then, so these revenues or these grants that we get are very specific where that money needs to go. Is that right?
Yes, they are. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're very limited in where the funds can be distributed. We find ways to meet the students' needs and talk to the principals, but there are very strict requirements for these. Great.
How long do these grants last? Or is this for the
This specific
next 2 years?
one goes through the 25-26 school year, so we've broken it down further than what was presented here. So we have a budget for each year based on the line items, and we'll plan based on those needs.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now we have presentation, approval, and adoption of the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program Plan, ELO-P.
Board members and cabinet members, members of the audience. My name is Pete Pentoa. I am the district coordinator for the ACES after school program, and I'm here to present and answer any questions that you may have about the new expanded learning opportunities program called ELOP. It will be working alongside our ACES program.
Hi, my name is Natalie Carnegas, and I'm the secretary for the after school programs. I'm so happy to be able to walk through this presentation on the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program that will work alongside the ACES after-school program with you. The ELOP and ACES programs will operate as one. ACES, elementary and middle school, and the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program should be considered as a single comprehensive program. What is the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program? Expanded learning means before school, after school, summer, or intersession learning programs that focus on developing the academic, social, emotional, and physical needs and interests of pupils through hands-on, engaging learning experiences. MJUSD has been granted approximately $2,916,000 for the 2021-2022 school year. The state has given districts a lot of flexibility in implementing this brand new program. ELOP and ACES. What is ACES? ACES is a grant-funded program that provides students a safe, supervised alternative for after-school engagement. MJUSD currently services 15 school sites, 13 elementary and 2 middle schools. ACES components include homework help, enrichment activities, and physical activities. Currently, ACES limits the number of students that access the program based on funding level that is tied to attendance. ELOP is designed to increase access to educational and enrichment services beyond ACES. ELOP will allow schools to increase service offerings in academics, wellness, and enrichment, and give all TK through 6th grade students and families the flexibility to participate based on their needs and interests. Comparing ELOP and ACES. The similarities with ELOP and ACES include academic support, enrichment, wellness, open all school days, and both use the same quality standards. ELOP, however, offers flexible participation where attendance is not a requirement. It will operate all school days, including 30 intersession days throughout the year, including summer. MJUSD received $2,916,061 this year with a spending deadline of June 30th, 2023. The state has given districts a slow-to-grow approach, and there will be no audits for the 21-22 school year. The goal is to offer 50% of enrolled TK through 6th unduplicated students our services. Here are some ELOP requirements at a glance. We will offer the program to all students TK through 6th. There will be 9 hours of program, which includes before school, the school day, and the after-school program. All school days, plus 30 intersession days. Community partnerships, TK and K programs with a 10-to-1 ratio, educational, literacy, and enrichment activities, and a well-developed ELOP program plan. The district's 2022-2023 LCAP has been developed with realigned goals based on community, staff, and student feedback. These are academic improvement, safety of students and staff, college and career skills, specific supports for EL, foster youth, and low SES students, and building a strong family-school relationship. Each district is required to design a program model to meet the needs of students. Aligning the needs and goals of the LCAP to the ELOP plan, MJUSD will design program supports that enhance the literacy initiative of supporting all students in TK through 3rd to read at grade level. Additionally, providing after-school music, art, and dance is a very good way to engage students to access extracurricular activities. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the presentation about this program that we are so excited to be able to offer our community.
Thank you very much.
It's a great program, and I'm excited to see it move on. Nice to see you, too. It really is.
Thank you, Frank.
Does that include transportation in those funds that you're proposing?
Yes, in short. They really lifted a lot of the restrictions on what we can spend money with the ELOP program.
Will we be able to see what community impacts and collaboration will work on that new plan?
Yeah, that's the idea, is to really bring in some collaborative partners.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Pete, I just wanted to double check or get clarified. So this $3 million grant of district revenue has very specific items that it needs to be used on.
It really focuses on some after-school enrichment and tutoring services that we can offer kids. It does have a before-school component and also intercession time, so the 30 days of intercession time that we are out of school. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And what is the time frame? Is this just for next year?
No, so my understanding is, and Jennifer might be able to speak a little bit more, but it's written into the state's budget as ongoing money, so it needs to be lined out, is my understanding of it, of the ELOP program. So it's written into the state.
Yeah, that's my understanding also. They want it to continue to be ongoing.
Great.
Are there any more questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve? Motion approved. Motion approved by Frank Crawford. Is there a second?
Thank you.
Is there a second? Second by Jeff Boone. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Now we have the approval and adoption of the Board Policy 6164.5 Student Study Team, second read.
Yes, hi. My name is Dr. Amy Murray, and I am the MJUSD MTSS coordinator. I'm here today for the purpose of introducing Board Policy 6164.5 Student Study Teams. And the purpose of this agenda item is to request that the board completes the second read of this new policy, Student Study Teams, Board Policy 6164.5. The SST process supports students as needed in terms of academics, behavior, and social and emotional supports, with interventions as needed in order to support learning. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have about the student study team process. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Is there any questions from the audience? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Second by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Now we have the adoption of the Board Policy 6164.5, Student Study Teams. Do I hear a motion?
Motion approved.
Motion approved by Frank Crawford. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Randy Rasmussen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Now we have new business personnel. Approve the job description and position of CTE Work-Based Learning Specialist. Do we have staff?
I am staff. Okay. Everyone needs a good laugh sometimes. Okay. This is to approve the job description. So when you start looking at the CTE programs that you saw presented earlier, really the next extension or the piece that comes next is making sure that there's a connection to businesses, internships, externships, mentorship is occurring. This is a MUTA-based position with an extended contract at 220 days that would serve to do that, to take students who are taking classes in these CTE fields and then pass them along to assure that they're getting aligned up with our community and getting real world experience. This person's primary responsibility would be to serve in that capacity.
Are there any questions from the board? Are there any questions from the audience? If there are no...
Yeah, question. This is funded CTIG, right?
Yes, this
so
is CTIG grant funded.
In perpetuity funding ongoing, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Allison Hasty. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Doug Criddle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Frank Crawford opposes. 5-1. It passes. Now we have 19.2, approve the job description and postings of high school registrar.
Yep. So these positions for high school registrar are present in most districts. This works to support high school staffs as well as the high school counseling department. So as transcripts become more complex or as courses are coming in, especially as you start to see lots of the online remediation courses from different districts, these positions would be set to serve one north of the river and south, including the alternative education in the high schools, to assure that as transcripts come in that they're being entered accurately, that credits are transposed, and assuring that all students are on the correct graduation tracks.
Are there any questions from the board? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the job description and positions for the high school registrar.
Do I have a second? second by Jeff Boone. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed. Frank Crawford opposes. It passes 5-1. Next, we have 19.3, approve the job description and position for mathematics coach.
Okay, so this is the job description following up what was presented back in November or so when we discussed the Educator Effectiveness Grant. So this position would serve to support mathematics instruction across the district. So this would be a TOSA MUTA position, standard calendar days.
How will this be funded?
It's the Educator Effectiveness Grant.
So how long would the position be funded?
It was 3 years, is that correct? Yeah, I believe it's 3 years on that plan.
Are there any other questions from the board?
I would just have a comment that if the board would remember, the board-approved LCAP included these positions in there. So when we approved that LCAP back in June, we're giving staff direction to go out and implement or to find these folks. So again, this would be to help satisfy the LCAP that we approved in June.
Doesn't bind us to
It doesn't bind us, but it's given our staff certainly mixed messages. If we approve a document and then say, Frank, can you listen to me? It would certainly give mixed messages to our staff to say we're going to approve the document and then we're not going to help support you in trying to fulfill that document.
That's the message I want to send.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the job description and position for math coaches.
Do I hear a second? Second by Jeff Boone. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Frank Crawford opposes. Passes 5-1. Next, we have 19.4, approve the job description and position of the TK through 12 science coach.
So this would be the same story, but a different discipline. For sciences coming out of the Educator Effectiveness Grant, this would be an NGSS or TK-12 science coach to serve to support science education across the district.
Are there any questions from the board? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Motion approved by Doug Criddle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Allison Hasty. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Frank Crawford opposes. Passes 5-1. Now we have 19.5, adopt resolution 2021-22/25, classified school employee appreciation week.
Okay, so this agenda item works. So in May, the 15th through the 21st, across the nation is Classified Appreciation Week. This would serve to say that the board is wanting us to celebrate that and have those celebrations during that week. Again, this is for our classified staff. Many of the folks who not just help our kids every single day, but during COVID, were out on the front line serving meals, doing all the rest of it. So this would be an appreciation week for our classified staff.
Motion approved.
Got him.
Had to get one in. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Frank.
I'm sorry.
Are there any questions by the board? Do I hear a motion to approve, Frank?
Yes, we do. Sorry,
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Allison Hasty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-1, 6-0. 19.6, adoption resolution 2021-22/24, teacher appreciation week.
So rumor has it we have some teachers in this district. And hey, there's some of them. This would be For the week of 5-2 through 5-6 is Teacher Appreciation Week. This would serve to memorialize that and set it as an appreciation week for staff here in the district and to appreciate our teachers for all the things they do.
Are there any questions from the board? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Allison Hasty. Is there a second? Second by Frank Crawford. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next, we have 19.7, approve the job description and position, Administrative Assistant 1, payroll AMACE, classified confidential.
So this is a reclassification of existing positions. This is something that was reduced in the district back in the last set of budget crunch cycles. Generally, folks who serve in any kind of capacity for bargaining negotiations, pulling budget figures, anything like that, serve in a confidential aspect. This would reclassify this position back into the confidential ranks.
Are there any questions from the board? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Frank Crawford. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Boom. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. New business services. Approved resolution 2021-2022/21 adopting development fees on residential, commercial, and industrial development to fund the construction or reconstruction of school facilities and approve the developer fee justification study.
Thank you. Yes, the staff is asking the board to hold a public hearing and approve a motion to approve our justification study done by King's Consulting. This is required by Ed Code Section 17620, pursuant to Government Code 65995. Recently this year in February, the State Allocation Board increased our developer fees from $4.08 to $4.79 per square foot for residential, and this justification study has been prepared to justify the increase.
Are there any questions for Jennifer?
What was it, Jen, 408 to 479?
Yes.
Are there any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Is this a public hearing?
Yes.
Are there any questions from the public? I'm sorry. Okay. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Jeff Boone, second by Allison Hasty. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The public's comment session is over. Now I believe we need a motion to approve the resolution. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Jeff Boone. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Allison Hasty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
The motion passes 5-1. Frank Crawford opposes. Now we're at 20.2, approved resolution 2021-22/23, school lunch hero day.
Hi, good evening. I'm here to request the board approve this resolution declaring May 6th School Lunch Hero Day, and this is in celebration of our school nutrition professionals. And it's inspired by the graphic novel called The Lunch Lady. And also, we like to say we wear our superhero cape on the front as an apron, or in my department, we're wearing chef coats now. So We just ask that we celebrate our staff, and it's been a hard couple years for the team, and we really look forward to these resolutions and celebrating our successes.
Are there any questions?
You just do a really great job. Lunched many times, and
Thank you, Mr. Crawford.
If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
motion to approve.
Motion approved by Frank Crawford. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff Bloom. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0. Now we have 20.3, presentation approval of the agreement with ISOM Advisors, a division of Urban Futures, Inc. Do we have a presentation?
Yes, we do. We have Mr. Jeff Pickett here with ISOM Advisors for a presentation. We are also asking the board for approval to amend our original contract that was approved by the board in September of 2020. This amendment will include a fee for going out for survey for a possible bond in November. And if that bond passes, then it has an additional $20,000 payable upon closing of the first series of bonds.
Thank you very much. Good evening, board members. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Superintendent Ezrani, and Jennifer as well for inviting me up here. I know you all have a presentation in front of you. We have one up here. I'm going to jump towards the end, if you forgive me a little bit, because I want to reintroduce myself and ISOM Advisors to the board and the audience members. If you recall, ISOM Advisors was hired about 2 years ago to help with a refinancing of some certificates of participation, and then subsequently we helped you with the financing actually about a year ago, just over a year ago, for some energy efficiency projects. With the COPs, we were able to save the district about $11 million, which was great news, and then with the energy efficiency projects, we used low-cost financing to bring in some solar panels, some solar projects that will hopefully save you also in the long run. So that's a little bit about myself, a little bit of history. Also want to remind you about the firm itself. We work with school districts throughout the state, including many in this county and this region. I have a list up here. We're working with Wheatland. We're working with Chico, Colfax, Winters, a whole list up here, Gridley. Many of these school districts, we do stuff similar that we've done before with you, leases, certificates of participation, but we also work on bond programs, and that's what I'm going to talk a little bit more about you tonight when I get to that. I'm going to give you a little bit more background on the firm. We are the #1 firm in the state working with school districts on their bond programs and financings. Here's a list of districts that we did bonds for in 2018. I'm not going to read through every one of them, of course, but what I want to show you is the depth and breadth of experience we have. Small districts, small counties, rural counties, farming communities, conservative areas, and liberal areas. Large bond programs for Santa Monica, small bond programs for Humboldt County districts. Everything throughout the state. We've seen it all. A little bit more recently, the last bond election in 2020, while smaller throughout the state for obvious reasons, here's a list of some of our successes throughout the state. Again, districts large and small. So that's a little bit of background about the firm, our experience doing bond programs, and I'm going to jump right to the beginning, and really I think the reason you wanted me here. And also I just want to say it's good to see everyone in person. I've been on a couple Zoom meetings and phone calls with the board members. I think everyone here, you may not remember me, but I remember you. I've talked to you before about those prior financings, so thanks again for having me. Good to meet you in person. So I think I'm here to talk about the district's needs. I assume internally, I know we've talked to Jennifer, Dr. Ezrani, about facilities needs in the district, and I'm sure the board is aware. So I'm here to talk about the bonds and one way of financing those facilities needs. Now bear with me, the next 2 pages are purely information on how bonds work. You probably know this because the district tried to do a bond in 2018 and it did not pass. However, the good news is you have a history of passing bonds, so the community can be supportive of the district in the right circumstances. A little bit about how bonds work. These are property tax bonds I'm talking about, different than the certificates of participation we did before. These are property tax bonds that are supported by the tax base of the community. So you look there, the table on the left-hand side of this presentation shows the growth in your assessed valuation. That's basically the tax base, and that's what goes to pay back the bonds. The assessed valuation over the past 15 years has had very strong growth. You see there are some dips after the Great Recession, but overall for the past 15 years, you've had over 5% tax-based growth. Very significant. The reason that's significant and helpful is because as that grows, your ability to sell bonds increases. As you may or may not know, unified districts can sell bonds up to a tax rate of $60 per 100,000 of assessed value. So if you have, let's see, a $5 billion tax base, as you see in 2022, we'll get to this in a little bit, I'll show you the background, but you can raise probably about $90 million, if not more, for a bond at a $60 tax rate. The bond programs are based on those 2 items, the tax base that you see on the left and then that tax rate that I talked about. To a lesser degree, interest rates. Those are important. You hear about them in the news. Interest rates are increasing. Those are a component of how many bonds you could issue. But the 2 big contributors are the tax base, and you have a strong tax base, and that tax rate. I'm going to slow down there because this starts getting a little bit in the weeds and gets a little confusing if you haven't experienced this before or maybe don't recall from a couple of years ago. Are there any questions from anyone on the board?
The main question I would have is the cumulative effect of paying back these bonds. There's the taxpayer, and there's also the district. And so do you take into account the bonds that we are currently servicing and the new bond that we're proposing?
We do, definitely. Very important question because it relates to that $60 tax rate that I was talking about. That $60 tax rate is per bond election. Each bond election actually can stand on its own in a silo, regardless of what else is happening with the other bonds in the district. However, that'd be a little myopic just to look at that. We have to look at what the community is paying already. It's not on this page, but I believe this year the tax rate per 100,000, we typically look at it per 100,000 of assessed value, is about $100 per year. Just a shade under that. So if you have a $200,000 home, that taxpayer is paying $200 per year. Okay? So again, when we're going to look at a future bond, we have to consider what the community is already paying. And we'll get to that when we talk about the survey and that step in the process, because we ask about tax rates. Are people tax rate sensitive? Maybe $60, which is the max, they're not supportive of, but maybe something a little bit less. It means a little bit less money for you, but passing a bond is better than not passing, as you know. Any other questions? I'll move on.
No, I would just like to point something out. What I don't like about these types of bonds are they're paid for by property owners only, but yet everybody votes on them. So to me, somebody shouldn't be able to vote to add tax to somebody else. And that's just one of my personal things, and I want people in the audience to understand that. Everybody votes on it, property owners pay for it. But if you're a renter, you can expect your rent's going to go up to help pay for that. So, you know, keep that kind of stuff in mind when you start talking about these bonds and how they work and stuff. It is another tax. We do have a great need for facilities, but we're also in the middle of, huge inflation and at a 40-year high in inflation and stuff. And to be pushing a bond right now, to me, is not a smart idea. I would be waiting. But anyways, that's my 2 cents worth.
Any other claps? No, very good point. And again, when I get to that part in the presentation and we talk about the survey, those types of questions are asked of the community. Would you support a new tax? And they have to decide yes or no. And, would you support this different tax rate? But it's a very good point. People will have to pay them back at some point. And maybe now's not the time. Maybe in 2024 is the time. You never know. But part of the survey is asking that question. Any other questions or comments? A little bit more math, and I mentioned some of these figures earlier. And it's part of the survey. What would people be willing to support? You have different tax rates in that table. I'm just going to focus on that table for now. You have different tax rates per 100,000 of assessed valuation. Either a $30 tax rate, $45, $60, somewhere in between. I just use these as examples. It might be $10. At each of those levels, you can see on the far right column, what the tax base would support as far as a bond measure. You see, we split them up into different series. We call them series. That's the terminology we use, but different chunks of money. We do that for various reasons. If you sell them in chunks, you can usually raise more money with your tax base because that assessed value is growing over time. And also there's some IRS rules and some, in the weeds type rules you got to follow about spending the money. So typically a district can't spend $90 million right away, or at least a district of this size. Maybe you can. Actually, I know you have significant needs. But we split them up like that. So you see at $30, the community and the district can raise about $45 million for projects. At $60, $90 million. Depending on some of our background assumptions, you can raise up to nearly $100 million. We're trying to be pretty conservative with these figures. I know they're big figures, but in the bond world, these are somewhat conservative. They're the current interest bonds, not those nasty capital appreciation bonds that accrue interest and you're paying interest on interest. No, these are plain vanilla bonds, something that are a little bit easier to support. Any questions on this? And if we look back, I'm just going to quickly look back. If you look back at 2018, the district could support about $74 million. And I believe it's about the $60 tax rate you're looking at, somewhere right in there. We weren't involved in that bond program. Okay, now I'm going to get into the voters. These are the people that you have to convince to support the bond. If you look at some of these numbers here, just on the left-hand side, your district is pretty conservative. A majority of the folks are Republican. Actually, with the teachers in the room, I'll use the right word, plurality. I can't say it very well. Of the voters are Republican, but it's relatively conservative, as you know. But you still have about 30% Democratic voters, and then about 30%, a little over 30%, decline to state. They could be the Libertarians, the Green Party, the other third parties, or they just don't decline, or they just don't want to state what their affiliation is. As you can see, about 74% of the voters vote by mail, but that's pretty standard these days. A lot of people are doing vote by mail. You have about 40% of your voting population, 55% and older. So they probably don't have kids in the district, but they may have grandkids. And they still may see the value in voting for a bond. Higher property values, typically less crime, so they may see the value, and if they have grandkids in the district, even better. They could be supportive. But we don't know until we ask. And again, we'll get to that survey part in a little bit. Any questions on the demographics here? I'm sure you're all aware of this, some of these stats. Voter turnout, this can be important. When you're going to the polls, typically we find that people are more supportive. Bonds pass at a higher rate when you have higher voter turnout. You have the more Democratic, more liberal, the more supportive voters in those higher turnout elections. That doesn't mean you can't pass a bond in June or an off-cycle March, it used to be March, off-cycle election. That really depends on what your community tells you. And in this case, we're not even looking. It would be impossible to do a June election. You would look earliest November 2022, if not 2024. Any questions before I get to this final section? I know you've had a long evening, so I'll try to keep it brief. What are the next steps? And part of that next step is what we're asking you to approve tonight. So obviously I'm here because there is at least an interest in exploring or thinking about a bond. You know you have facilities needs, so you got to determine whether you want to move forward with a bond or not. One of the first steps to do that is do a voter survey. Okay, assuming you have the needs, and we're pretty sure you have the needs, one of the major and first steps is to ask the community, what would you support? Would you support a $30 tax rate? Would you support a $45 tax rate, a $60 tax rate? Do you support the schools in general? We ask that. Do you think the board is doing a good job? Do you think this, staff, everyone loves the teachers, so we know they're doing a good job. But do you think the board and the staff is doing a good job? Do they trust the district? We ask those types of questions. We also ask, would you support a new high school, a new elementary school, a science wing? Do you want to just rehabilitate the roofs, the HVAC, safety measures? And we see what people would support, and we build our program around that. We build our messaging around that. If they are supportive, and they're not always supportive, but if they are supportive, then we start reaching out to community members, key stakeholders in the community. Maybe the local supervisor, a local business owner. We're assuming the board is going to be supportive at that point, or we want to be here, we want to be at that point. And we ask those community members to publicly state that they support the measure. After that, you get into some campaigning, and then you have the November election. Just to give you an idea, you will have to decide. I want to step back a little bit before that November election. We kind of have in the middle of that box, there's an August deadline to actually get on the ballot. You have to present your resolution to be on the ballot in early August. So again, we're working with many local districts on upcoming bonds, including some in the area. We're talking to Lassen, maybe not local, but regional. We're talking to Gridley, Wheatland, and they're all in different positions. For Lassen, we did a survey, came back negative. We're suggesting don't go, wait. There's no reason ISOM Advisors wants to be involved in losing bond programs. We give our best advice. There's a reason why we pass at a 90% rate, more than any other firm, because we know when not to go. Wheatland is considering going. They'll likely go. Let me see, I got another one. I think Gridley. Looks like Gridley has positive survey results, so they're going to go. Most likely, at least. But those are the steps. Following those steps, and actually, reading the tea leaves, reading the survey, understanding the survey, those are the keys to a successful election, including deciding to go or not to go. What we're asking you to do today is amend our contract to add some of these other services that weren't part of the original contract. All the original fees are the same. But by amending the contract, you allow us to do that survey, explore the possibility of a bond. And that's just one step. That survey will tell us go or no go. At least it'll be a piece of information that you can have. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Yes.
My main concern is the outstanding bonds that we have already on our tax roll. And we're wanting to add more to it. And I guess what I've heard in the past is part of the bond, if it passed, pays off one of those. Well, given the numbers you just gave us, it doesn't look feasible if we're really going to do any improvement in the district. So, from your experience, how has that been going?
I didn't hear the last part. From my experience, how it's what been going?
From your experience, where you have, the public passes a bond and then the district decides to pay off an old bond, and then the remainder of the funds that are available are then put to the infrastructure.
Okay, I'm going to answer it a couple different ways. Just to try to get, there's a couple different ways that question can be interpreted. So, you have existing bonds outstanding. We're not talking about using any of these new bonds to pay off the old bonds. 100% of these new bonds would be for new projects, okay? There are certain situations if old bonds are falling off the tax roll or they're close to falling off the tax roll, you may use these new bonds to pay off the old bonds. There's also bond refinancings, and districts do that. That is very similar to what you did with the COP in 2020. You basically, it's what you do with a mortgage. You have a high interest rate, you pay it off with a low interest rate loan. You can do that with COPs, leases, you could also do it with bonds. We're not talking about that in this case. This is a new bond for new facilities. Part of our job, though, just to give you a little idea, part of our job as your financial advisor over the past few years is to monitor your existing bonds for opportunities to refinance, and there are none right now.
Are there any other questions from the board?
Yes. So if I heard you correctly, Jeff made a good point about a timing issue of maybe not this is the right time. Part two of that is finding the right projects that are of a collaborative effort that the community could also partake in, use facility-wise, which we all know we desperately need, and improving some of the facilities in our school districts that we desperately need. So what you're saying then, just so I understand it clear, that the initial survey that you're putting in this out will give us a little more data, a little more foundation to base those decisions on prior to going into a November election, correct?
100% correct.
Okay.
We would take a list of maybe your top 7 to 10 projects, make them part of the survey, and ask if people are supportive of those projects.
Okay.
I would just like to say, too, thinking about, so I think sometimes it's hard or maybe easy to get confused between certificates of participations. So certificates of participations are loans that the district takes the responsibility of. And when we're looking at these bonds, when we're trying to go out for, is the responsibility of the folks that live in our district. So it's the certificates of participation are something that the district has to pay back, and these types of bonds are something that the community has to pay back. And just thinking about in the last couple of years, and as you said earlier, that it seems to me it would be if we're going to move forward here, we really need to be very specific on our on our desires of what we want to do for different school sites. Only in the last, year or so, we used up the remaining, I think it was $12 million of Measure P on the Arboga project, which then the remainder of that was coming out of the district funds. And for the $16 million project we're looking at Covalod is also district funds. We're not going out for any kind of bonds for those. Also with the Foothill project, we're looking at $12 million of district funds that are supporting these new buildings at these different sites that we have. We're not asking the community to pay for any of those other than their tax money that they're normally going to do anyway. So it certainly seems to me that we in the last year and the next year with the projects we have forthcoming, we're using a great deal of district funds to try to improve our facilities for our teachers and our students and our staff. But I think in the last time when we did go out for the $74 million bond, I remember going to, pretty much all the school sites when they were developing their wish list. And some of the sites still had their renditions of what was promised to them from the 2006 bond that went out. So they're saying, why do we even want to listen to this if you didn't give us that new cafeteria from 2006? So it seems to me if we wanted to move forward with this, we need to be very specific on the items that we want to have for, and I would think we would need to look at those items, have the estimated cost, and then go for that amount of money. I would hate for us to say, well, we can get $60 on 100, so let's go for that 90,000 or 90 million. I mean, that just seems ridiculous to me if we only have $40 million of needs that are identified. Granted, this district for facilities has at least $90 million of need, but it doesn't make sense to go out and try to ask the public to do that. So again, I would think if we're going to move forward, we need to be very specific on the items that we're going to ask the public to want to help fund, and then see if they would be supportive of that.
I went through 2018 with you guys, and I don't want to go again.
That was not us. I just want to be clear.
Yeah, old saying, a bond is a bond. Go ahead.
No, I understand. But this first step we're asking, it doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't mean we'll put a bond on the ballot. I think Randy actually started getting to something I want to bring up. I mean, based on our experience, a successful bond comes when you have the needs and they're well identified. Then you ask the voters, would they support it? And you alluded to that. This one, maybe didn't bring up directly. Jeff kind of mentioned it with the taxpayers. If you have no strong opposition, or at least, if you don't have any strong opposition that you can't convince otherwise, you'll be successful.
And the other part of this is the state match and federal match. I mean, is there any idea on the horizon that that is coming, or is it there?
It's there if you're in line for it now. There's not a future bond, state bond, that I'm aware of. I think I talked to a district a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. There's not another state bond that I'm aware of, on the ballot for school facilities. So it's whatever is there now. I don't know where you are in line, if you're in line for some state facilities funds. But you do have to meet those matching requirements, yes, and the bond money can help meet those.
Do we have any questions from the audience?
I'm listening to this and wondering what possibility there is that people would vote for a bond to make $90 million when the district has $80 million sitting in the bank that they don't know how to spend. And I appreciate that a lot has been spent on facilities out of our own money, as Mr. Rasmussen said. But I'm just wondering, why are we talking about this if we don't even know how to get our teachers paid a living wage. And having people vote on giving this district $90 million when they have $80 million sitting there going, well, we can't pay the teachers with it.
Good question.
And I think it has to be reiterated, and it's been exaggerated. These folks that's leading this union know full well that we have restricted funds that are not allowed for salary or ongoing projects.
That's absolutely not true.
College is not restricted.
The majority is not restricted. That 44 million left over the couple years ago, 43 million of it was not restricted. I know how to read the budget.
Continue with your presentation.
That's all I have, actually.
So when we first started, Jennifer talked about an amendment to the contract, and if we wanted to hire your company to just do a survey, how much does that cost us?
For your district, that would cost between $7,500 and $10,000. We bill it at cost. It's not anything we do. We outsource it, bill it at cost, show you the invoice, and you pay it. I think there's a not to exceed of $12,500 in the contract, but based on my best guess, current estimates, depending on the number of questions, $7,500 to $10,000. And if you don't go anywhere, there's nothing back to us.
So we could enter into a contract for $12,500 to do a survey to see if we would have support from our folks.
Yeah, you just amend this contract that you currently have with us to add that service. And there's one additional service, but again, if the survey comes back, or even if the survey came back positive and you said no go, there's nothing due to us. We don't do anything. We don't charge any fee until a bond is sold.
Any more questions?
Yes. Oh.
I would just be curious if anybody from the board or your presenter could fill the audience in on exactly how many bonds are already on our property taxes here for Yuba County and Marysville. It's a nifty little piece of information to have, so I'm wondering if anybody can tell us. Because if you're talking about, well, maybe only $30, maybe only $60, maybe only $100, anybody know what that number is? Got at least 2 Yuba College ones. I said at least 2. There's 2 in Marysville. I'm wondering if anybody else, if we know, anybody know what those dollar amounts look like?
I'll take the board members off the hot seat because they probably don't know. I'm going to say I do not know off the top of my head, but I can get that information and share it with the board.
Please do.
I'm also curious, I know that it was mentioned that maybe this isn't the time, maybe considering how completely and utterly off the charts expensive it is to build anything at this point, a garden shed, much less an entire school because of the expenses right now. I mean, it's off the charts what lumber alone costs. So are we looking to get a bond so we can build one school, one building at the current building rates? Or are we thinking maybe in a couple of years we might be able to build 4 or 5 schools with that same amount of money? So I'm just curious if we've given any thought to the absolutely exorbitant amount that it costs to build anything right now.
So the question I have for Jennifer, by us adopting this proposal, are we adopting that we would conduct a survey?
Yes, tonight we're asking you to approve an amendment to the existing contract to go forward with the survey.
Are there any other questions from the board? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
I would like to approve an agreement with ISOM Advisors to do only a survey, and I think we're talking about 12.5 for that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ellison Hasty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed. Wow. Good job, Frank.
Passes 5-1. Now we have...
Thank you for having me this evening. I'll be in contact with Jennifer and Superintendent Azrani. But again, good meeting you in person.
Dr. Azrani.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to take the opportunity now, before we go to public comments, to recognize 3 new administrators who are sitting here tonight. If you could please just stand up and maybe or come and just say hello to the board would be great. So we'll start off with Zach Plass, our new Director of Student Services. Thank you, Zach. He replaces Jolie Critchfield.
Hi, everybody. My name is Zachary Plass. I'm coming from Nevada County. I'm middle school principal there. This is my 20th year in education, and I'm really excited about working with this district around attendance and behavior and trying to work on some of the discipline pieces. It's been a great welcome, and I really appreciate everyone who's welcomed me, and I got to meet a lot of the staff today, so thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then we have our dear Laurie Guy sitting in the audience. Board just approved this position for the Director of Data, joining us from the district from Edgewater.
Thank you so much. After working for the district for 33 years and being at 5 different school sites, I've worn out both of my feet, and I'm very happy to be embarking on this new adventure and was convinced that I have more to offer this district. So I appreciate the opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
And sitting in the audience, dressed in red and black and bleeding everything to about Lyndhurst, is Naomi Magana, or I'm going to mess it up, but Mimi, please come up. We shouldn't miss her colors of red and black. I just want you to see that.
Good evening, Board, Cabinet, Dr. Fall, Dr. Rocco Greco, members of the audience. I'm Noemi Arroyo Magaña, and I am very honored to take the position of Assistant Principal. I'm a product of MJUSD Unified, and I graduated from Lyndhurst 25 years ago this June. And it's been a wonderful year being able to serve as an ELD program specialist this year, and I'm very excited and proud to be returning to Lyndhurst High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move into public comments. They're limited to 3 minutes, and then per subject is 20. So our first comment is Tammy. Thank you.
Welcome. Just don't let the A get in the way. Strollzini. Okay.
Please.
So I've come to you guys on several occasions speaking to the need to attract and retain high-quality teachers. I was told a story just the other day where a prospective teacher had a choice between our district and a neighboring district. When she closely compared all financial factors, one glaring difference stood out to her. Our monthly health care costs are a great deal higher than many districts in the area. Knowing she would lose out on significant monthly pay, choosing our district was no longer one of her options. As a matter of fact, there are several districts surrounding us that have finally realized how important a healthy district benefit cap is to their employees. Looking at districts like New Estro, Live Oak, Franklin, East Nick, Browns, Wheatland, and Yuba City, their benefit caps average somewhere between $12,000 and $13,000 annually. Our district, $10,580. If we were able to match their health care offerings, we may be able to attract new teachers and prevent our current teachers from jumping ship because they cannot afford to live on their current monthly salaries. This district was given an ongoing cost of living adjustment of 5.07%, which was not allocated to any specific purpose. We have said from the beginning that a 5% ongoing salary increase is both fair and necessary in order to help our teachers with the cost of everything rising and to help our district bring new educators into our classrooms. Here's a basic math lesson. The district wants everyone to believe that they have offered 5%. I mean, 2 + 3 = 5, right? But this is not the equation we're working with. All one-time monies will do is give us a one-time bonus that will maybe cover some of our bills that have piled up this year due to the nation's outrageous inflation rates, and will also impact our tax liability for the year. But what it won't do is help put us in any better position for next year. And chances are pretty good that healthcare costs will yet again increase, causing many of us yet again to experience what results as a pay cut. The work our teachers in this district do should be valued, respected, and most importantly, compensated. No more misleading equations. Show that you truly appreciate your teachers and agree to our 5% salary increase now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kelly Belinsky, however you say it, sorry.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Bielski, and I'm a first grade teacher at Olivehurst Elementary School. It's not a secret that the cost of living is going up. In March, the inflation rate for the last 12 months rose to 8.5%. Last week, I set a new record for how much it costs to fill up my car, and that will only last me 4 days commuting to school. I am dreading what the cost will be to fill up my husband's diesel truck this week. My grocery bill has gone up as well. I'm sure that all of you have been having similar experiences. The teachers and support staff in this district work hard for our students. I know that many of us buy things for our classes out of our own pockets, whether it's snacks, prizes, craft supplies for projects, and holiday gifts. Those all come out of our pockets. Why do we do this? For our kids, and to see the pride on their faces when they go running out to their families that they have a Christmas, Mother's Day, or Father's Day gift that they have made. The last 2 years have been very difficult for school staff. Recently, the cover of the NEA magazine had a headline about teacher burnout. I'm feeling it and seeing it firsthand, and have a fear that there is going to be a mass exodus from education. Teaching is the only thing I've ever wanted to do, but in September of this year, I went home and asked my husband, if I wasn't teaching, what would I do? This is why I'm urging you to show your teachers and support staff that they are important by giving us a 5% cost of living increase. The state of California has already increased your funding by 5.07%. We're just asking that you pass along the 5% to us. While this doesn't keep pace with inflation, it is certainly better than the slap-in-the-face insult of 2% that has been offered. Recently, a colleague attended an educator's job fair in Placer County. There, the Rockland School District was passing out their salary schedule, and when the colleague was asked where they were currently working, the response to their answer of MJUSD was, "Here, all of the needs of our students have already been met. You don't have the same challenges that you do where you are now." If MJUSD hopes to retain teachers, they're going to need to show that they value them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Carpenter.
Good evening, Dr. Azrani, trustees. It's good to see some old friends representing my area. I'll try to be quick. The state gave us a 5.0% cost of living adjustment across the board. Yes, there are other funding separate areas, but they're a drop in the bucket. They really don't have any effect on this. The district could easily afford to give us that 5.07. They could afford to give us more. It's hard to believe that you can't afford to pass along what the state is giving you to your employees, but you can set aside millions of dollars every year to increase what you have in savings. It's insulting. It is beneath you. I'm not only a teacher in the district and a parent who's put my kids through this district and a grandfather who has a granddaughter in this district. I'm also a taxpayer in this district, and I don't pay taxes to see it put in the bank. It needs to be spent. It needs to be spent to the benefit of our students and employees. Thank you. Oh, and I'm sorry, Mr. Crawford.
Yes, sir.
When did you start at Marysville?
72, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was there from 74 to 75 while they were building Lyndhurst. No, I was there 1 year, and then I went to, I was never in your class, but then I went for 3 years to Lyndhurst.
Yes,
and so,
at Marysville High, that's all and I've had kids go through the whole system.
yeah, and I've been here a while too. And, oh, Kathy snuck out of here. Okay, well, anyway, thank you for your service, and hopefully you will thank us for ours. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Alicia Tyndall.
Hello, friends in education. We're here tonight because we've all been informed about the 5% COLA from the state that our district already received, the funds that we know exist. We all know there's a rise in inflation at a national level. We've seen numbers and facts and statistics, which I thank our bargaining team for presenting and informing us all about. We've heard about and felt the staff shortage all year. We know teachers and support staff are leaving the profession at scary levels, and we need to be offering competitive compensation to hire and retain staff. We even have a section of the Strategic Planning Committee dedicated to coming up with ideas to improve these issues, many of which are going to take money. But I'm not going to speak about money. Instead, I'm going to speak on value. Last summer, a very close relative of mine told me that it's too bad that me and my sister didn't go into a more successful profession. That we're really too smart to be teachers when we could be doing something where we're making more money. Now, there was a small wrath that followed that statement, as you can imagine. But you see, the education profession is undervalued by much of America. I personally feel that our profession should be the most valued, as we are literally raising our nation's children. We are building our country's future leaders, business people, and workforce. We are teaching academics, but we all know that more importantly, we are helping families teach their kids social skills, manners, logical reasoning, problem-solving skills, survival and life skills, and loving on these kids, giving them consistency and stability, helping them to become responsible, contributing, community-minded adults. And in some instances, we are the only people in their lives teaching them all of these valuable things. Yet much of America doesn't see that. They don't see our profession as having that value, because if they did, our society would show that value through a much higher budget for public education and compensation schedule for educators. And much of America doesn't have a relative to give them an earful and explain these things to them. But we are not in a room with much of America. We're in a room of people in the education profession, a room of people who understand that value. And when the state gives our district money for a cost of living adjustment, especially during this time of crazy inflation, and all we're asking is to receive that which has been provided, we should not be rejected. We should not be undervalued by people within our profession, or the rest of America and society will never believe in our value either. When many of my students and my own 11-year-old daughter, express interest at a young age of wanting to be teachers, I want them to be able to enter a profession where they are valued and compensated accordingly and are regarded as being in a successful profession. So please show that you understand our value. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Allen. This one's in Plumas Lake. Meeting adjourned.